getting to the Keys Bartender's music here. Let me pause that. Hi, this is Jim the Keys Bartender coming to you from Key Largo, North Key Largo. I'm here with Jenna Kelly. Kelly.
That's a tongue twister for you.
What?
It is. It's always a tongue twister for you.
Almost everything's a tongue twister for me.
If it was Jenny Kelly, it would probably be easier
Jenna
for you.
Kelly.
Jenna
no,
Kelly.
It's just life. The English language does not come natural to me. It's like I was raised. Maybe I was raised by a French family and I was adopted by or maybe an Asian family. I don't know.
I had a
Swiss
customer.
English is foreign to me.
English is foreign.
Mm-hmm.
I have a customer from Switzerland in today who told me that every American sounds like they have half a cheeseburger in their mouth.
Oh, well, yeah, they come from a country where they have 4 official languages.
Right.
And we established, did you hear that the United States does not actually have an official language?
Oh, really? We don't anymore?
No, English is not our official language. We don't have an official language.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It's, you know what, most people speak English. And then you come to South Florida and people get all pissed off that people are, they're drinking.
Drinking?
Drinking Corona.
Drinking.
Drinking Corona. You
Take
know what I
another
mean?
sip,
Wink,
Jim.
wink, wink, wink. Drinking Corona and eating a lot of empanadas and shit like that. Well, this is episode 147. I'm going to get back to that.
This is episode
and we're going to call it Mr.
47.
Misogyny.
Mr.
Misogyny. We're going to get back to this point we were talking about. It may seem like when we're in South Florida that there is a lot of Spanish speakers, and there are, and it was originally a Spanish colony after they took it from the Native Americans, obviously.
After they took it from the Bahamians. Yes.
The Bahamians?
Yes. Well, this area, specifically the Keys, used to be technically part of the Bahamas because it's the archipelago.
Yeah.
Right.
The Bahamians.
The Bahamian natives actually occupied the Keys first. Well, as far as we know.
Okay.
Right. And then it was, settled by the Spanish. Well,
There's
Florida.
There's some Bahamians walking around, probably, so percentage-wise.
I have a lot of customers that are Bahamians.
Yeah. There's Calusa. Calusa, I think, is down here.
Calusa, yeah.
Calusa, the Seminole. I'm sure they made trips down here.
Indians. Well, of course they did. That's what happened with Indian Key.
The Miccosukee. I like saying Miccosukee.
Miccosukee.
Hey, I can't say Jenna Kelly, but I can say
Miccosukee. Miccosukee. I'm so proud of you, Jim.
And I don't mean to piss off anybody in Alamorada, but when anybody asks how to pronounce Alamorada, and they send them, and they're going down there, I tell them Islamorada.
Well, that is how you say it in Spanish. Islamorada.
No, Islam. No, but English.
Oh, you say Islam? You're
Islam.
terrible.
Morada.
Islamorada.
Yeah. My
Goodness.
Mom,
Hi,
my
David. Have a seat.
Hey, have a seat. My mom would just totally fuck up, and she'd go, Islamabad. And that was the capital of Pakistan.
That is terrible.
That's the capital of Pakistan.
It is. Well,
and she goes, we're going down to Islamabad. And I said, yeah, you can say that. And she said, she goes like this, Jim, that's an interesting name. What'd you say? Islam? No, it's Isla Morada. Think of Isla. Isla Morada. Isla Morada. Right. But they put the 2 words, and you see the M jutting up against Isla, and it looks like Islam.
Yes. My mother is
So I go
Lebanese
like this, go down there and go, when you show up at Islam Morada, go, Salam Alaikum, motherfuckers. Malikum salam. Salam.
My mother is Lebanese, right? And my brother lives in Iowa, and she calls it Iwakistan.
Iwakistan. Iowa?
Yeah. So my brother lives in
Iowa. That's about right.
Right.
Wait, are you, Lebanon was a multicultural society. You had the Druze, you had the Shia, you had the Sunni, you had the Coptic Christians, you had the Maronite. Maronite was a big one.
Right.
Some Roman Catholic even. What group? I don't know.
I know
honestly, you're not a religious person.
I couldn't really tell you. I'd have to ask my mom.
You don't know if you were Islamic or Christian?
I think her mother was technically Muslim.
Yeah.
Islamic Muslim.
But it was very.
Lebanon
was very. What would you call it? It was It was almost like Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East.
Yes.
And it was very cultured, and they were very sophisticated. And I think, and I'm not talking about at the time of whoever that, caliph was, whoever was Saladin. I'm not talking about Saladin like in the 1100s. I'm talking, and we're getting off point again.
We really
are.
But I will have to tell you that I thought there was an interesting fact when I did Ancestry.com. And in fact, my mom actually had me look it up the other day because she wanted to know what cities her parents were born in. She was doing something. And I found the census document that they fill out when you come over, through Ellis Island.
Yeah.
For her.
Oh, they came over long ago.
Yes, her grandfather came over.
What's Ellis Island closed in prior to World War II?
I thought it was, but of course they spelled everything wrong. Everybody's names were spelled wrong because they didn't know how to translate their names in English.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And
especially with using.
Her father was Ali Bouchami, or her grandfather. Sorry. But on the actual ship's register on the top, it said Beirut, Syria, even though Damascus is the capital of Syria and Beirut is the capital of Lebanon. So it said Beirut, Syria.
Prior to World War I, the Ottomans controlled that part of the world, and they were called it was a province. So Lebanon and Syria were grouped in its own one. You ever seen Lawrence of Arabia?
Yeah. But I thought they were more like the Montagues and the Capulets.
What?
The Syrians and the Lebanese were kind of more like a Montague and Capulet type of situation where they didn't really get along.
Well, the Ottomans grouped them up differently, and then after World War I, they combined a lot of areas where the French, the Beirut and Beirut, Syria was taken. The French sphere of influence, and Saudi Arabia. Was British. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Libya. I think Libya was Italian.
I have a really great transition back into our topic because typically Middle Eastern men are very misogynistic.
What is that? I mean, to get to the point how that came up.
Right.
What does that mean to you when you hear someone's now, just for some of our listeners, misogyny is professing, this is what I believe, professing to believe that you're very open and fair-minded, but in effect, all your behaviors and your language you use are not.
Well, the definition of misogyny is actually, I believe it's hatred for women. It's if you have hatred for women or you think that they're much less than you. Would
that be called sexist, though?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Sexist could be, I guess sexist doesn't really point out that
you can
which
be
sex you're
right, exactly.
You're,
but a misogynistic person technically would be a man, well, honestly, or a woman who doesn't like other women, or thinks that women are lesser than men. Whereas the feminist movement would be the absolute opposite. And feminism, the definition of feminism is really tough because a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, that person's a feminist. That's absolutely not true. The belief of feminism is just that you believe that women can be treated equally as men. We know that biologically, physically, we usually have smaller muscles, smaller frames. We're smaller people. I can't lift and do all the stuff that my husband can do or that my adult sons can do.
That is actually, that was a genetic trait passed on, if you think about it.
Absolutely.
Because you imagine if selection was made that the women would be larger and the men smaller, that it would be viable. Let's say we lived in a society where we had to get our food was through small cave openings and all that stuff, and the people had to do the hunt and gather or whatever it is.
Right.
That size thing, and this is my amateur Darwin theory.
Let me hear your amateur.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously you ever seen Kingpins when he says those with those hips. Yeah. You're not going to have any more than 5 or 6 children.
Right.
But they're not childbearing hips. But the women developed smaller, but when it was more prized that males being larger and stronger to be, and that's how selection is made among people choosing their mate.
Right.
And that was it. And that's it. Fundamentally, there is no difference actually in the brain. There's a little offset on how when you talk about menopause and things like that, and obviously the period, the whole menstrual cycle, and men go through certain things too. But I thought, up to a point, I thought I was a highly evolved male. But last week it came crashing down. That
Yes.
I am not perceived that by everyone, and I do, and I'm not. You know what? I am going to piss off my friends in where I grew up, and I have something to talk a little later about Pat McGeehan. I suspect.
Yeah.
I suspect he had a point of order about something else.
Yes, but you specifically had a customer that pointed out
when we were talking someone, but she always does that to me, the same person. And she looked at me. She's very intelligent. We've been on the same. It's funny. Her husband, who comes in, seems to be. If I'm misogynist, he's 10 times.
Right.
So her pointing out, and I guess she expects me to be more.
She
actually more on board with that. Hey, listen, I take everyone as they are. There's not, like I said, I don't like to calling women a bitch. You know what I mean? A bitch is when I use that word bitch, it's bitching, people bitching,
right,
and it's men or women, right. And the C word works. The English use it works really good on everyone. So there's not, and I wouldn't necessarily prescribe a certain thing. My favorite one for people, if I want to give a derogatory one, is something everyone shares, and that would be asshole.
Yeah,
because you could be.
I'm an asshole. I mean, I get that.
No, you're not an asshole.
Well, we talked about that last time. That I'm an asshole.
No, you're not. You're not. You're. Wait, listen. You're very understanding and stuff like that. I mean, you're just because. No. I do understand that women can be strong and have expertise and be good at things, and it doesn't diminish me. And there's women, there's a lot of great, better female bartenders. Matter of fact, Holly, I would say this thing, for bartender, Holly's a better bartender than I am.
No,
little Holly?
Yeah, little Holly.
But
she's my
as an overall
friend.
person, I think I'm a...
Hey, we're both 4'11", so we bond.
Yeah,
on the little girl scale.
I think she's an excellent bartender, but I think I have. If I have to throw, everyone has their own unique skill set, and I think I discussed this with Pat. Everyone has a unique skill set that they bring to the table, and mine is, I guess, humor, wit. Wit and humor are different.
Yes.
Wit is the quickness, I think.
Exactly,
and humor
the reaction time.
Being able to deliver and understand other comic situations.
Yes.
And general knowledge, and I think overall empathy.
But you think that you're Dr. Phil.
No, I don't. I thought I was similar to Dr. Phil, but I'm closer. I didn't realize I was more like, and I almost said, who was I going to pick? I was pick someone older. I was going to say Phil Donahue, but half the listeners wouldn't fucking understand who that is. Phil Donahue was in the late 70s.
Yeah, but what
in
was
the 80s.
Was he the Donahue Show?
Yeah, the Donahue Show.
Yeah.
And he was very understanding. Every woman.
The real
and
thick
then
glasses,
after that,
right? He had the Coke bottle glasses.
Yeah. But it's Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz, or I don't know. Oz is more medical and stuff like that. But, someone that treats people
just dealing with
on a person-to-person basis, not their. But we go back to this thing. Everyone used to think, come on, think of this for years and years. You would never think that Matt Lauer would have had a door that locks from the inside, and he'd be able to hit
the button to lock the women in there. Door. Here's the thing, though. He didn't install that himself. Someone put that in there for him, and they all knew it existed. And you say nothing.
Well, I mean,
they say nothing until someone complains.
If you're an anchor on a show,
untouchable.
It's almost it's
untouchable.
Dictatorial powers.
Until the Me Too movement came out, and other people started talking about it, and then the executives were like, "Oh no, we know this is going to happen." First complaint they got, they had to listen to, and what are they going to do? Shut it down? Yeah. But they couldn't deny it. They couldn't deny knowing about it. And then you look back on so many of that guy's interviews, and how creepy was he?
I remember what's her name. Someone used to always talk about him, Joy Behar, or what's her name? The redhead that got in trouble for doing a picture of Donald Trump's head.
That was that was
what's her name?
Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin.
Yep.
she had this thing about Matt Lauer. She kept on talking how great he is. And stuff. It turned out she didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Because Matt Lauer, wasn't his
well,
cup
of
of
course,
tea.
no.
So
but he always kept saying that Katie Couric was the 10. Katie Couric was the 10. And then Katie Couric was interviewed like a couple years before, and they asked her, you know, how was it working with Matt Lauer? How was it working with him? She was like, well, except for the pats on the ass, no big deal. Ha, ha, ha. And she laughed it off, so nobody took her seriously. But, of course, her as a co-anchor, what's she going to say? She would have just uprooted everything. But I wouldn't say that Matt Lauer technically would be a misogynist because he didn't hate women. He liked them. He liked them a little too much.
I was talking to someone about a fundraiser that they had. Recently we had this big fundraiser was the bra walk, pink bra walk. And people think it's for breast cancer, the fight against breast cancer. But actually it was a catch-all fundraiser in memory of someone, and it had to be a pink bra walk, right? And people thought if they were coming in, you got the pink. It doesn't work on. And luckily, it doesn't. We'll get a picture of you and put it on our title for the show. But
sorry, listeners, I just grabbed the pink wig.
Pink wig. Wig.
Yeah, wig. Again with your English language today.
Wig. I know that's my.
You're struggling.
I have a half a beer.
You have a half of an IPA.
I have a half a beer, and that's it. And I was good all day. I went to the gym, did all this stuff. You should see me. I mean, I have. I may have reached the limits of my abilities to learn.
Do you think so?
Anything new.
Do you think they can't
I think my brain is full, and I had a limited capacity, a 3-gallon. Some people have 5-gallon jugs. I have a 3-gallon jug, and mine's full because I can't learn anything new.
So you think that it's true that you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
I didn't say that.
Therefore,
a dog that learned a lot of tricks. A dog that learned a lot of tricks, but I believe you can. Most people have the brain is there's a tremendous amount of plasticity.
Your brain is full.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's not that big a brain. I mean, I always think that the most exciting thing for me to find out is that my IQ is besides if my IQ is at 130, I'd want it to be 70. And people say, "Wow, look at what he did with 70." Because everyone talks about being a genius, right? And if I go and say, "Look at what Jim did with 70," he seems like he's very intelligent, but he isn't. Kind of like Steve Carell's character on Anchorman. When he keeps his mouth shut and looks at it, he looks very intelligent until he opens his mouth. You know?
I like Steve Carell the best on the when he was the anchor on Bruce Almighty. And he did the blah, 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 you know.
Well, that's his forte.
Yes, it was
but
awesome, though.
Besides that thing where that woman, we're talking, I'll say her name, Rachel, and she looks at me and says it, and she says, that was very misogynistic, what you just said. I'm trying to think. I was looking back. I didn't see anything, but I was talking about the bra walk, and I did mention that the witch's ride was much sexier than the bra walk. You think the bra walk, it's bras. Women are wearing pink bras, but they're wearing them over shirts.
Well,
and
they're
stuff like
also
that.
wearing bras over their clothes and nothing under their clothes. It looks a little strange.
It's not very. It's not.
It's not attractive.
No, they didn't. And they don't do it for that reason.
And you also have men participating in the bra walk.
Well, they
bras.
participate in the witch's ride too because the guys got dressed up like warlocks and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So, but those dresses, those outfits were a lot. Yeah, witches. The sexy witch thing has really taken off since the 1990s. I don't know. It wasn't really Bewitched because I didn't think Elizabeth Montgomery. You know who she is?
Oh yeah, that's the nose, the wiggle nose.
I used to like on that show. I thought, oh, there's a helicopter.
Sorry about that.
You can tell we're outside.
The trauma
Isn't it
star
great?
is
You'll
going
be able
by.
to see it. That's Donald Trump flying over.
It's Donald Trump.
Going to Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago. It's
yeah, there
over
he is.
that way.
Yeah, you're going. I think they're going in the right direction.
They're heading towards the hospital. So, yeah, that's Trauma Star. They fly over this every time. So hopefully it's not too bad, whatever it is.
So I said the witches, I like the mother. He used to call Darren any name except Darren. They call him, and Dora
Her name was Andorra.
Or the cousin of Elizabeth Montgomery when she had the black wig on. And Barbara Eden, I like the genie. I dream of Jeannie.
Yes.
But Jeannie, in the Islamic myth of the genie, I think they're called Jinn, Ginn. If it's anglicized, they're almost traditionally a male spirit,
right?
Not a girl with a belly.
When you would think of a genie, that would be the genie in a bottle, which is a big dude with big muscles and he's green.
Which in some, and that's a fantasy for some, which is a perfect fantasy for some people, right?
But you got to rub the genie bottle, right? You have to rub the genie bottle until he comes out and he's like smoky.
That's the one that came out. I think that came about. Did you ever hear that one? I told it. I'm going to tell this joke again.
Okay.
Guy's walking down a beach and he's by himself, and he's on the West Coast, and he's just thinking, man, I just want to go someplace new. I want to go to Hawaii. And he's thinking, he's walking down the beach, going to the beach, and he finds a bottle. He rubs it. A genie comes out. He goes, I'm going to grant you one wish. He goes, I thought it was 3 wishes. No, you got it wrong. It's 1 wish. I'll give you 1 wish. He says, I was just thinking about this. I want to go to Hawaii. The guy says, I can send you to Hawaii, no problem, the genie says. He goes, no, I don't like flying, and I don't like boats. Well, how do you want to get there? I want to drive. And the genie goes, are you kidding me? That's thousands of miles of concrete, the depths of the ocean. There would be some of it floating, some of it would be based on there. You know how that's incredible. The resources that we take to do that. And the guy goes, okay. I understand, the guy says. You know what? I've been having a problem with my romantic life, and it's good at Valentine's week, Quinn. I would like to understand what women like and be able to understand how they want to be romanced and how they don't. And the genie goes, do you want that to be a 2-lane or 4-lane highway? And that's why I'm a misogynist. That's why I'm a misogynist.
But that doesn't mean you hate women. That just
I don't hate women. I mean, but I remember that one. I'm not going to tell. And I always pretended to be, and I realized I'm trying to bring my daughter on board with this empowerment thing, right?
That you can't. Nobody can label you as a misogynist. First of all, you're very happily married.
I just went to my daughter's basketball game. This is Mr. Sensitive.
Yeah.
She's in 6th grade, and she's middle school basketball team was playing at the local high school down here, and I'm at the game, and they're playing a team from up in Miami, and they won 34-2. My daughter's team.
Yes. Is your daughter the center?
At halftime.
Is she a center?
She's
forward,
up there. I mean,
center?
they don't have that. They play zone and all that stuff. They don't have any. But
she's very tall. She's much
she plays
much
forward,
taller
center,
than me.
or whatever and stuff like that. But this is her first year playing basketball, and then at one point I'm cheering for the other team.
Just because they were doing a good job?
No, because they were losing. They only had 2 points. It's pathetic.
They needed some encouragement.
I mean, I'm the same way. I love the Philadelphia Eagles, but when they're blowing someone, it doesn't happen as much now, but if they're blowing out a team and stuff like that, I never want to see someone humiliated. And I have a little later on, maybe we'll talk about the gladiatorial aspects of football and boxing. I want to talk about that on the next episode. But here, I'm trying to empower this guy and say, listen, you're as good as a guy, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out it's great. She's never, and forgive me if I don't think teaching a girl to be a cheerleader for guys on the sideline is to empower women. You got to get out there and do stuff too. You know?
I have a really good story for that the other day. Because I'm very handy, right? And I'm a little bit of a math nerd.
Yeah.
And I've been able to remodel most of this house with the help of my husband, and I've taught him a lot, actually, through the whole process. And we remodeled the big boat back here, which people have seen on the picture.
Yeah, you see the boat on one of our episodes.
And
we're going to do a show from
We are going to do a show from there. But I went to help one of the ladies, Roberta, from work. Remember we said hi to Roberta?
Yes.
A couple times ago.
Hi, Roberta.
I went to her house, and I helped her put in the countertop in her lower-level apartment. And then when I went back the next day to go put the trim boards up, which are all miter cuts, you have to make sure they're all nice and perfect, and run my brad nailer, there was a man there that was working on her dock, putting up new pillars, like bumpers. And he kept staring at me and giving me kind of funny looks. Made me really uncomfortable.
The stink eye or the Malloy?
No, I think he was a little shocked, and he was an older man, just that I was a 4'11" blonde female working on my miter saw, which was on the tailgate of my pickup truck, and I was cutting all of these boards to go put in Roberta's house. And he kept looking at me, and finally I just looked at him, and I said, did you need help with something? Yeah. You want me to help you carry all that stuff? Because he was carrying these big boards down. Great. And he goes, no, I got it. Like my dad always told me, slow and steady wins the race. And I said, all right, well, let me know if you need help. You know, but he made me really uncomfortable because he kept staring, and I came home, and I talked to my friends Damon and Joe, and I was like, I realized that I'm comfortable being me and doing the things that I do, like build sheds and floor houses and make countertops and do all these things when it's just
make
them.
What houses? You said?
Well, like build sheds and
houses.
Put the flooring in the house.
See, once again, I got to take these headphones on. I heard whorehouses.
Whorehouses.
And that piqued my interest. You built a whorehouse?
I am really good at building
whorehouses.
So now supplying the whores, I would think that would probably...
It could be a male or female.
You never know.
My last name's Horan.
You are the first whore then.
Yeah, I'm the first.
But I'm only really comfortable.
That's what it means, the first whore.
Doing those things that are technically, in quotes, man-ish things when I'm around the people that know me and they know that I'm still very feminine. I'm still super female. But I'm just handy with stuff.
I think sometimes there's only some people identify their gender identities are tied up in these myths on how we're supposed to be. Right?
Well, it's how they think other people see them.
Women cry a lot. Guys keep a stiff upper lip. Tough and this and that. And we all know stories where women do things that are very tough and dangerous, and guys who are there's a cowardly lion.
Right. Or guys who are just really sensitive.
Yeah, real sensitive and stuff like that. So, I mean, whatever role you identify with, there's no reason to have to put someone else in that role. It's just like people that don't like people of other cultures or different scientifically, socially constructed races. You know what I mean? Right. To go and say, well, at least I'm not one of them. Well, because you don't value yourself enough. Value yourself a little more, and then you don't worry about it. You don't worry about what someone else is doing, and worry about it. Don't worry about that woman over there that's squatting 400 pounds.
Don't worry about that.
You have a lower back problem. You can't do that. But she might not be able to make a chocolate souffle like you can, man. That's how everyone has their different talents.
There's do have a judgmental side of me when it comes to parenting, though.
Yeah.
Really bad. In fact, I left work a little early today to run a couple of errands, and I went to go get toilet paper and some cleaning supplies.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
I left. I left the store without getting everything I needed because there was a lady in there who had the most rotten behaved children. Yeah. And I was like, nope, I'm out. Done. I was like, I noped myself all the way out the door.
What was the kid doing?
There were two of them fighting. Repeating themselves 15 times. I want a yo-yo. I want a yo-yo. I want a yo-yo. Why does she get a yo-yo? It drove me nuts.
Do you ever get that thing in your head and you feel bad about it when someone's acting like that and you think, boy, wouldn't it be great if one of their parents just took them aside and started beating their ass? And then you realize, holy shit. I always hear people say, well, my parents used to beat me. Well, you're a horrible fucking person anyway. Why would you use that as a thing to say? Not saying you're a horrible person because you can break the cycle. You don't have to
break
you don't have to beat people. There's all different shit going on.
I've never had it.
And there's plenty of people on death row in prison that their parents beat the crap out of them and it didn't do any good for them. And there's plenty of people that were never beaten. I mean, Dad took the belt to me a couple times. I think I got smacked once or twice. But there isn't a history of abuse in my family that I can point to. It's like, for that time, I think I had one of the easiest ones. My dad was a chief in the Navy. You figure if anybody's going to get their ass kicked. And, after the second or third time, he pulled the car over, and he said, I'm going to get you when you pull the car over. And he was in his 20s at that time.
My mom did everything to my brother. Mm-hmm. She did everything to him.
You were the baby.
I was, but only by 2 years.
Wait a second.
Yes.
And you're the favorite.
I am absolutely the baby, and I'm absolutely the favorite. Hi, Mom, by the way. And she knows this. I have pictures to prove it, which will probably be on the next podcast. But she did everything to my brother. She would pull the car over and threaten to kick him out, and she kicked him out. She made him walk all the way home. I saw what she did to him, and I wasn't going to push her to that level. And, by no means was I a perfect child either, but she never had to beat me. She spanked him instead. Yeah. And I would cry because my brother was getting spanked.
Really?
You know?
What was it? Was it open hand over the pants?
No, it was a racetrack. Hot Wheels. Do you remember
Bare
the Hot Wheels racetrack?
I know that one. Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
On a bare ass?
I don't know if she ever did it bare ass. I'm guessing that he probably had his shorts on at least or something. But but she would just be loud. She would like walk down the hallway and smack that racetrack all over the place and make all this noise. And she was scary when she got loud.
I told you that one of the nuns in my school actually gave a bloody nose to a friend of mine.
Really?
Backhanded. She was about your height.
Oh.
About your height.
Nuns.
Backhanded him. She had a vicious backhand. And she'd hit you with the edge of the ruler. And they were back then when they used wooden rulers, not these light little plastic ones. If she hit it would have shattered the plastic one. But I
had a nun named Sister Eustacia that had boobs that were probably heavier than her entire body.
Was it nasty? Like, listen, a lot of sweet nuns out there. There's a lot of sweet nuns. They're sweethearts. They are very nice. But
Sister Noelle, she was really cool.
Sister Angelina used to take all her snot rags and push them up her sleeve. Every time you do that, I'm like, holy shit. I said, if her forearms, I thought for the longest time that her forearms are like Popeyes, but it's because she had all those tissues poked up her sleeve right there.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and they make you get up and sing in front of me. You suck, you know. Or she didn't say you suck. She said you were horrible. You have an ugly voice. The furthest thing from, I'm looking around. Is this the Church of Satan? Is that Jesus over there? Is that Jesus hanging on? Is that Jesus hanging on the big plus sign?
Oh, goodness.
The plus sign, I told you about that one?
Yeah, Catholic school, though. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Private Catholic school. I went all the way through.
Yeah?
From kindergarten all the way through. Catholic school.
I went half. I spent half my time at all high school. But I went to a Franciscan school, and that's like going to some of the diocesan priests were mental. Yeah. Crazy. Just go absolutely nuts. And filthy as hell. Father Carl would always tell the dirtiest jokes. He's everything. I could spell that young girl's name. I was like, holy crap. That's the guy.
Yeah.
Far from being godly, he was actually as disgusting as some of the guys I knew.
I even knew some of the altar boys that had been messed with. It was definitely a weird.
You knew?
Oh, yeah. Well, not then. I didn't know. I found out about it later. But shortly thereafter.
I told you to my time when I was down here, and we're straying from misogyny again, and I don't necessarily want to attack the mother church. You know, they got to get. They have a lot of shit to talk about. They get the thing down. The numbers are, and like we said, the numbers are drastic. We don't want to be trashing them. They've done a lot of good with feeding people and stuff like that. But get your act together. Get rid of the celibacy
and stop touching little boys.
Well, if they get rid of celibacy, I think if they get rid of the celibacy, that will go a long way as attracting a different type of clientele. When you get not clientele, recruits. Yeah, recruits. It's like going. It's like if you want to get a high degree of pedophiles, tell people, listen. You're not allowed to have sex. Well, and you can't have. So they go like this. They're sublimating all their energies and stuff like that. And some of them are pedophiles anyway. And they probably think instead of being a horrible person, I'll just go and be a priest. And then they can break down. They got all these kids around them, stuff like that. It says, instead of using, I'm a heroin addict. So instead of using heroin, I'll work for the distributor of heroin. Bring all the children unto me, you know.
All the children here.
Suffer the children unto me. No, the children are suffering. I'm sorry. I'm going to piss someone off for doing that. So what do we got?
Anyway.
So we're talking about the misogyny thing.
And how we do,
and how I can empower my daughter.
I think that
first of all, empower her by not having her listen to the show.
Well, of course not. She's 12. Mm-hmm. She's a little young for.
She says, "Daddy, why can't I listen to the show?" I said, "Listen, it's just like, you know how I don't want you to come in the bar after a certain amount of time that night? That's the same.
It's
same
inappropriate conversations for a 12-year-old.
Yep.
There are certain things that they should be learning about in their lives at that point, not what we have to talk about.
Yeah, just like I said in a previous episode about waking that fucking baby up at 9 o'clock. Bring him out.
Yeah,
it's time
like
to go
baby in a bar.
It's time to drink.
It's time to drink.
Yes. We're 35 minutes into it. We got another...
We actually, we needed to talk about Pat.
Okay.
Because the phone call from Pat.
Okay, I'm not going to go over details of what was happening before. It was right before this guy was sleeping over at a friend's house, I think. and we had some alone time. Okay? And I don't need to go into details. I don't have to talk. We had alone times. Right before alone time, the phone rings. And it's Pat McGeehan. I see him come on. I pick up the phone, and it didn't interrupt anything. Luckily, it came in. And I'm in a reclined position next to my wife, not fully clothed, but clothed. And Pat's on the phone. He goes, I'm taking I have a dispute with your depiction of yourself in the last episode.
That would have been 2 episodes ago, yes.
Yeah, it was episode 45. 45.
Right.
And I was saying, he said I was playing coy or downplaying
your experience with women.
My experience with women.
Right.
And he said that if I told half of what I did, it'd still be a lie. He says I wasn't even close. And I said, and I'm thinking that he was around for some of the amazing spectacles. When I was, it's like if you see someone doing a great layup and did his great a dunk on the basket, or maybe one-handing a football for a touchdown. He was there for those moments, and for my touchdown dances. He was there, but he wasn't for those other times where girls said, "You need to go away right now. I don't want to talk to you. Go away." I mean, it happened several times.
When you
but
got
then
put
again,
on the creepy
Pat
scale.
pointing out there were a lot of successes too, and they used to see it at the bar, and that was my local bar, and I would, and he was, I guess he was right. He says, he said to me one time, he says, "You probably didn't even bring all the girls you were with back to the bar." I said, "Well, I used a better part of caution with that. I decided that it may not be good to bring a woman there and have you tell them, here, girly man." Girly man. Everyone cheer when you come through the door and you got a girl with you, and you're like, "Oh man, I'm going to look like Sam Malone when he's talking to a girl. He's gonna get laid."
Yes, but the other thing that he probably didn't see is that it might have taken you 2 or 3 or 4 dates to actually get to that point because you were a little non-aggressive. You said.
Yes, that's right.
So
and sometimes that non-aggressive thing actually worked in an hour. not forget about 2-3 dates. Some of them tell you within an hour. No, they were not. No, I'm the slut. I'm the slut. And this is where I don't ascribe that moniker to women. Guys, as men, women, do not. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's
but
socially accepted.
And I don't think that's fair.
My big brother,
it's not fair at all.
Recently divorced, when he was about to come down here, kept texting me and just saying, "Sluts, sluts, find me some sluts." I'm like, I don't know any sluts. Well, I know a couple of them, but I
told you about my fire.
I also know their boyfriends.
The thing if you're getting attacked, right? The guy Jim Foley from Philadelphia told me. I was describing to a bunch of young people about if you're getting attacked on the street or accosted by a man. Don't yell rape. Yell fire.
Fire.
Because people are more concerned with their property than they are with helping another person. So Jim Foley, who was fucking hilarious, said, "Why don't you yell whores? Because if you yell whores, a lot of guys will come running."
Yes, I agree.
Go, whores! And all of a sudden, well, where are they?
See, now technically you cannot be a misogynist for having this conversation because you are having this conversation with a female.
Is that true?
Right? Because I am agreeing.
I don't know. I don't think that's true. I think that's misogyny in practice.
It is not.
It is practice
really?
telling a joke. I don't do the blonde jokes. I don't do that.
I like blonde jokes.
I think they're trite. I think just like ascribing to a certain nationality, that whether they're dumb or not, like that.
Who's this new politician girl that from here that everybody's posting memes about?
That hot one, the Latina one.
Yeah, and she keeps saying the dumbest
shit.
She
is super. I don't think she says dumb stuff.
People are posting memes about it all over the place. So
I talking about that young one that got elected to Congress?
Yeah, and then she put something on Craigslist.
Oh,
like,
no,
anybody knows cheap
kissing
apartments in Washington? Like everybody's giving her shit.
Oh well, she used to be a bartender. She used to be a bartender, and she came about That's why when he made all those statements about socialism, because he mentioned 70%, she mentioned 70% tax bracket for the wealthy, for the super wealthy. And people don't understand, and they don't recall. They have a short attention span when it comes to history. Because under Eisenhower, a Republican president, the top bracket was 90%. Under a Republican. Wait a second. People don't remember, under Eisenhower, the economy was booming. So, and Nordic countries that have that, they boom too. Economically, they're doing great. So to go and call that, you're going to make it a nightmare. Now, there's bad socialism because it's not tied. Socialism tied to a dictatorial leader like Maduro and Castro. I know they're going to piss off these guys from McGeehan's because they're no taxes, nothing like that.
Well, you're also not supposed to talk about politics in a bar.
Oh, fuck. I didn't talk. There's a whole bunch
politics and religion.
You're going to talk about sex?
Should not be discussed in a bar. That's what.
I agree.
Your bosses,
I tell
your bosses always say that.
They say that, but people come in to do that, egg me on.
Although Kathy gave me a lot of cool shit from my bar at home.
No, but luckily they're progressives. They do it stuff like that. And the other people start doing it and stuff. And I have friends that wear the MAGA hats. There's one guy, old guy that comes in, Doug. He loves me. He wears a MAGA hat. And someone gave him shit for it. I said, listen, I disagree with you. I think it's idiotic. That guy, your thing, would not have you over his house. He wouldn't even talk to you. I mean, he'd talk to you if it's at a rally, maybe. With all their inbred people in the thing, right?
Okay, so now when you were talking about how when
I know you're
Pat
telling me she's beating me off.
You know what? When Pat called you, you said he just about, not quite, but interrupted alone time. So I'm wondering if that is what your next topic is, because right under that you have about side effects for ED medication, and I'd like to hear about this, Jim.
No, people were talking about at the bar. They were talking about there was a pharmaceutical one medication, erectile dysfunction, and one of the side effects was talk to your doctor about an irregularly shaped penis. And they said, why wouldn't you talk to your doctor anytime about a regularly shaped penis, even if you don't have one?
So you're saying that if you had a straight penis and then you're taking ED medication,
and it starts curving,
then it starts curving?
That happens, yeah. There's something about the blood flow changes, yeah.
But
well, everyone's curves, but
if you're going to speak, you have to speak into the microphone so people can hear you.
You could talk. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you grab a goose for me?
In the fridge.
No, not a bottle of vodka. I want a bottle of vodka.
It's an IPA.
No, please.
We're going to just get him slurring his words because after half.
No, actually, without the beer, I was slurring my words. I couldn't. I had a hard time. Help yourself.
My name today was Jenna Kella, by the way.
That's why I bring them over for people to try them. Where's that fish?
Here's your fish.
Oh, my fish.
There's the wiggly fish.
Great wiggly. Well, speaking of, this is what I'm talking about. Right here. I have this bottle opener. It's a
if you think about those
fish.
Old plastic snake toys that they would give out, like where you could wiggle them, and then they.
Let's say you're taking. Okay, now picture this, folks. I got this fish that looks like the snake that goes. Metaphorically, it's the same thing.
Wiggles side to side.
Side to side. But if it's permanently like that,
right? Straight. Straight. He's holding it straight.
Yeah, when it gets turgid. I think turgid, right? Is that the proper word for it? Turgid. I mean, erect.
Erect, right.
And it starts turning, because supposedly with some of these erectile dysfunction, it increases the blood flow. And if you have blockage, and this is for people with a lot of blockage going on, right? And I'm not talking about backup of semen.
No, you're talking about blood flow blockage, right?
And what happens, there's less on the left side and more on the right. It starts going to the left. It's like a person, if you're in a three-legged race and the other person stops running and the other person's running around. So your penis is only going to the left.
To the left.
And that has to change. I guess it has to change your whole lovemaking technique. Sweetheart, could you slide a little over to the left? Because it's going to go, and you're going to like it. Or you turn yourself. I guess if you turn yourself, and then it's pointing up. So if you're at a 90 degree to the person, I have a
So you might be a 45-degree angle humper, is
yes.
what you're saying.
No, 45, that would be
45.
Like that.
Right.
That would be like that.
But I mean, because 90 degrees would be
a large pee hole right there.
45 is not that bad. 90 is completely sideways.
What the thing came about, the discussion was a couple weeks prior, that anytime any symptoms showed up in any of the trials, let's say they have a trial, 500 people, and the person may have been able, the next erection they were going to have, if they may have not had one for like years, that penis could have been going that direction a long time before, right? But he didn't know it because the blood never got there. And now you got to look out for when you're taking the medication.
Of crooked dick syndrome.
Crooked dick syndrome.
Right.
I mean, if it was
I just named it that. I like it.
If it looked like a lightning bolt, that would be really scary one. Check it out, Doc. It looks like the fucking Nike swoop on my penis. So, but I mean, anything shows up because you know what? I took the medication, and my semen is orange.
What?
No, I didn't say it. If they say that, what if the guy?
Is that an actual side effect?
What if some crucial thing happened? Like they ate for 2 days, they were stuck in a snowstorm, and all they had was bags of Doritos and all the seasoning.
And then after the 2 days of being stuck in the snowstorm, they took a Viagra.
He was touching himself. He had all the Dorito dust on his penis. And he tells him, he goes, well, I was taking it, and my semen turned orange. No, it wasn't. It's because you had all the Dorito dust on your penis.
Well, right, but, I mean, who's thinking about taking a Viagra in the 2 days of a snowstorm after eating Doritos?
You still got porn.
Okay, yeah, I suppose.
Well, how are you going to enjoy porn? There's guys taking erectile dysfunction. And you know what they're going to do on Valentine's Day? They got a fucking 1980s blow-up doll with the woman with the, now.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're doing all sorts of things to that. I mean, and the sad thing is some of these people don't have the lung capacity to really blow those dolls up all the way.
They just need an air compressor.
What?
They just need an air compressor.
You're right. That would be great. Or, if they have one of those real dolls, those Japanese dolls. So you did that before.
Well, what's that movie? We talked about that one other time.
Lars and the Real Girl.
Lars and the Real Girl.
Did you see it?
Yes.
Oh, is it great?
It's freaking
but
hilarious.
It wasn't about sex.
No, it was just
it was about a relationship.
His
and they didn't get
companionship.
into that thing about sex with her.
No.
Yeah, but the great part in that, if you ever, listeners, if you ever get the chance, let's start wrapping up because we're at 50.
Oh, we are
50. Break, and we could do.
And then we're actually going to.
But we're going to do it. But
yeah.
we'll wrap it. We're going to go 50 minutes at least. It looks like.
Well,
so Lars, if you get a chance, watch Lars and the Real Girl. Be careful with the erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, and please be careful of your consumption of Doritos.
Oh, and I want to talk about
the
next
time.
one I'm talking instead of that about testosterone replacement because that was funny too because I had this observation where the guy said something.
We'll have to touch on that next episode.
And we want to beg again. For what's the big thing we're asking for? What is the one thing?
The biggest thing we need are
besides Viagra,
reviews. iTunes reviews.
iTunes reviews. That's it.
iTunes reviews.
Yeah,
those are better than Viagra.
If you don't have access to that, do it on those other ones. That's great too. But the more let us expose ourselves
it's actually
to a larger population.
Really easy to do because if you go right onto the podcast app that you're listening to and you click right on Keys Bartender, you can go right to the middle click in the center of the screen and just hit review. And
a lot of people don't know what to.
You could type it.
I
right
had a hard
on your
time
phone.
doing.
It was really easy. 2 little clicks.
There was a guy on the show. He was a regular on the show for months. And I go, well, you listen to the episodes. And I don't know how to get a hold of the episodes. I go, what? Do you know how to tell people how to get? No, I don't.
Are
you fucking kidding me? You've been on a show.
There's another one that says
subscribe. You're the guy, if you go swimming with, he's always the one you have to save.
Yes.
So every so often, you got to throw them a
guy.
cinder block and say, there you go. There's your life preserver. And you go, bye-bye.
Well, when you're done throwing your cinder block, you use that same hand to click subscribe, and then you use that same hand to hit review, and then give us some good reviews. That's what's most important.
Hey, listen, a lot of people have a lot of extra energy, hence the Jergens lotion thing I'm talking about on Valentine's Day. And when you have your box of tissue sitting next to you.
Or your sock under the
bed. Or your
bed.
sock. Make sure you wash you should have some wet naps so you don't get.
Moist towelettes.
Yeah, you don't want to have caked substance on your keyboard because that would be very embarrassing going to the Genius Bar.
If you get
the Genius Bar and go, oh, there happens to be, I see your problem. You have a lot of protein.
If you get that on your keyboard, you're going to just hit a lot of the same letter, the same. Like,
just be stuck.
Yeah, it'll get stuck.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm going to thank Jenna Kelly and our massive audience there of 3 people.
Yes, we have an
but it's good
Today.
feedback. It is good feedback. Say goodbye, Jenna.
Goodbye, everyone.
And
Until next time.
Yep, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you very much.